Here I am with my meeting pane open. You can see I have the chat open, so I can see all of you guys in there. So the first, when you hover over the center part of your screen, you'll get a toolbar pop up. You can see I'm the one recording, so you probably on your toolbar, you don't see that, but you have the turn camera on and off feature. So I'm going to turn mine off for a second. And then you have your mute and unmute button. It is best practice when you enter a meeting to make sure you're muted so that if a conversation has already started, that you're not interrupting that. So best practice for all meetings is to enter a meeting muted. You can choose a fancy background effect for your meeting. And again, your video has to be on to be able to see that. So you can click show background effects and then choose from a variety of different scenes behind you. I would coach your students so that they know if they're going to have choose a background, they pick one at the beginning of the meeting and they stick with it for the duration of the meeting. That would be a best practice. All right, so some of the other buttons that you have on that toolbar is you have your share screen button. I'm not going to click that because then you won't be able to see what I'm doing. But when you click that button, you'll get a little pane that opens up at the bottom of your screen that'll ask you which window you want to present. So for example, if you have like PowerPoint open, you could choose just to share PowerPoint. I chose to show my desktop, and then everything I pull onto my desktop, you guys will be able to see. All right, the next button over, I think you guys have already found that, is the meeting chat. Keep that open for meetings. And then the next button over is the participant. I call it the people button. So we can see everybody who's in the meeting. So if you run meetings, especially if you have students in your meetings, this is something to take note of. First of all, you can see everybody who's here. You have a mute all button. So if you want to be the only one talking as the organizer, you can mute everyone else with a click of a button. You want to unmute yourself and say hello?
Yep. Hi,
there
Betsy.
she is. Hi, Christina. Okay. And so then I can go ahead and mute Christina. Something else to note in that ... button is you can remove a participant from a meeting, kind of boots them out. So that's something good to know. So if you have somebody who doesn't belong in the meeting, you can remove them. And another little magical button that I recommend if you're having meetings with students is this make someone an attendee button. You guys joined what we call is a Meet Now in a channel this morning. And so by default, everyone in a Meet Now is a presenter. If you make, for example, your students an attendee, that means the only actions they can take are they can mute and unmute themselves, but they cannot mute and unmute others. That's something that's good to know. Also, they do not have the option to record the meeting. We don't want students recording a meeting that has other students in it, so we can maintain our privacy laws and abide by our acceptable use policies. So just know it's a great practice to make students an attendee in a meeting. Okay, so those are the basics of your toolbar. One other thing to note is this ... menu. So this is where you, it's called more actions, but I just call it the ... There's a lot of, let me close the people tab. There we go. There's quite a few settings in here to take advantage of. One is the device settings. So if you're having audio issues, this is where to check. By default, Teams will choose your PC mic and speakers unless you have something else plugged in. So I had my headset plugged in this morning, so I'm going to stick with that. You can also, if you have like a webcam plugged in as well, it will recognize it down here in the camera area. So that's something to know. Also in your ... menu, besides the fun backgrounds, is where you can end a meeting. This way you don't have to wait for people to leave. You can just boot everybody out at the same time, which is what I'll do at about 10:02 today, is I'll just click that end meeting button. All right, so those are kind of the basics of the options you have in a meeting. And now I'm going to talk about teams in general and how to navigate those. So I'm going to I'll go ahead and just open the school closure support team. Here we are in our Meet Now for the SPS Distance Learning channel right here. Any team that is created has a general channel that's default to every team, and this is where just general conversations take place. These again are called, every one of these little lists. So here's the title of the team. Everything below that is called a channel. Sometimes they might be hidden, but there'll be like a purple hyperlinked thing that says, 15 hidden channels or something like that, so that you can click that to see all of the channels for that team. Something else to note is you can see some of these channels are bold-faced. That means something new has taken place in that channel since I last looked at it. So it's a little notification that Teams uses, so you know something has happened in that team or in that channel. So in the general channel, this is where conversations take place in this main area of the team. That's different than a chat, which is over here on the left tab. And I'll go through these left tabs in just a second. But something I want to point out, the difference between a conversation and a chat is, in a conversation, you're going to have a reply button. Whereas in our meeting chat, you don't have a reply. It is just one chat after another. So that's the difference between a chat and a conversation. In a conversation, you can hit reply. In a chat, it's just one after the other. Okay. So in a team, I'm going to go to my sample team to show you guys a few things here. So a team is set up with a general channel. Every channel has a conversation area. That's something to note. And then every channel also has a files section, so that any file that has been shared or uploaded through that channel will appear here in this files section. I don't think I have anyone in that particular channel. Let me go back to that. All right. And then so you have different channel or different tabs up here to look at. If I go back to our school closure where we are, up at the top, you've got the files that are shared in this channel, as well as you can add a hyperlink. So I added Teams resources, which is a link to staff tech resources, which you have available in Clever. I just pointed to the Teams resources folder. So if you want some quick guides that include some videos and how to get started in Teams or Teams for Students, how to Zoom in Teams, we've got all the documentation and support materials there. So check out the tabs at the top of a team so you can see what's there. Something else to point out is in our general channel for the school closure support team, I have a link to staff closure resources. There's a lot of information here for staff. It maintains the hyperlinks. So if you want more professional development, you can go click there to get more information. We also have tech tools and quick guides for you as well. All right, so now I'm going to talk about the left tabs over here. And then we're going to look at a few other setting options you have in Teams. So over here at the left, the top button is the activity feed. These are all of the things that have happened in teams I belong to. I don't really do much in the activity feed. You can just kind of scroll through and see what the hot issues have been. The next button down is for staff only. Students do not have a chat button. Only staff do. And you can have, this is like texting. So you can text one or more people in the chat tab. You could just search for a person and start chatting them. So for example, I could say, Terry, hi. And so now Terry and I can chat. We can add a person to that chat. For example, I can pick my friend Talia, and we could add her to the chat if we wanted. So you can set up some group chats if you would like as well. The next button down is Teams. So when you double click on it, you can see every team that you belong to. One thing to note is that you can organize this view so you can have your most frequently used teams in the most accessible places. So for example, I tend to use this team for messing with for just trying to figure out and show people how things work. So I'm going to put that up at my top row. So just know that you can drag and drop these in an order of your preference. Also, something good to know is you can hide a team. For example, let's see, Tim, no offense, I'm going to hide Tim's meeting team. So I can hide it by clicking the ... menu and clicking hide. And then I don't see that anymore. However, I can still get to it in my hidden teams section at the bottom. I've hidden 25 teams. So far. That's a lot of teams. Anywho, so just so you know, you can manage your teams in this view. All right, if you belong to a classroom team, you're going to have an assignments button. So these are all of the teams that I belong to that includes assignments. So I have all of those. So I could click into one and see what assignments have been handed out in a classroom team. The next button down is your calendar. This is actually your Outlook calendar. It has a few more bells and whistles that are specific to teams, such as this Meet Now button. We'll talk about that in a little bit, but just know that this is your Outlook calendar. This is a great place to schedule teams, any kind of a meeting, whether it be a Teams meeting or not. All right, the next button down is the calls button. Students don't have this one either, but all staff do. So this is a way to see who has called you through Teams, and you can turn voicemail on and off so you can accept voicemails via Teams if you wish. So that's something handy to know. Again, that's right now is for people inside our network to be able to call you and leave you a message. And then the files button includes files that have come and gone in Teams, or actually have been uploaded into Teams you belong to. And one of the handy features that I have found is this downloads button in files. It is any of the files that you have downloaded from Teams that you belong to. So I'll go, oh, I know I downloaded that. I totally don't remember which team that was from, but I can go into my files, click downloads, and then I can see the ones that I have downloaded from there. So those are your left tabs. All right, so let me go. I'm going to go back to this. This is a prettier view. All right. So something else that everybody should take note of is your icon. There's a lot of information hiding behind your icon at the top right of your Teams window. So I'm going to click on mine. You can see I have a little rocket ship for my picture. You can change that picture. By default, it's your initials, I think, but it's easy to change. Just click on your icon, click change picture. You can upload something, or if I were to remove it, it would go back to my initials. So just know that you can customize your picture. Particularly for students, they like to see their teacher's face. So when they're looking for the right team, whether you have a class theme, you could upload a picture that goes with your class theme. Or something specific to you so that students know they are on the team that belongs to you. There's lots of things that are available here in with your icon. One of those I want to point out, though, is your settings. In Teams, you can set what your theme is. So if you're one of those people like me that likes to use dark mode, because it's a little bit easier on the eyes if you spend a lot of time staring at your screen, you can do that. You can set things to dark mode. However, it does not make for the greatest presentation when you're sharing your screen, so I'll go back to default. Something else on this general settings tab is auto start application is on by default. And that means that every time you start up your computer, Teams is also going to start, which can slow down your startup time. So I have this unchecked because I want to choose when to start up Teams. So if you want to make that choice, you can uncheck that box as well. So then you just start Teams when you're ready for it, if you're using the desktop app. Just know that at any time when you have Teams open, you can right click on it on your taskbar at the bottom and click quit. Quit does log you out, or doesn't log you out, it closes Teams completely. You can sign out. So if you have multiple people sharing a computer that use Teams, you can sign out of Teams here. You can open Teams back up and the next user can sign back into the team using their district credentials. All right, so back to our settings. Here's a really great one. People love knowing that they can customize their notifications in Teams. Teams does notifications for everything, and it can be overwhelming. So just know you can change those. You'll notice I have most of mine turned off. However, a few of them, there is no off option, and the closest you can get to off is only show in feed, which is that activity feed, and that red bubble will always be there showing you all the activity that's happened since you last looked at it. So just know that for all the different things that happen in Teams, there's a different notification for that. So when the option says banner and email, just know that the banner is a purple rectangle that shows up at the bottom right of your screen with a brief little notation of what the activity is that has taken place for you to take note of. You can click on the banner and go right to the activity that happened, or you can just let it go. I think it goes away in about 5 seconds, and you can take note of it when you're ready. If you are not actively in Teams at the time and something happens, for example, a colleague joined the team, if I haven't been in Teams, if Teams is closed, I will get an email, excuse me, I will get an email instead of a notification so that I can go, so I know to go open Teams and check that. For now, I'm going to go ahead and turn that one off. All right. So those are some things to take note of there. You can also change your device settings here in the devices tab of settings. So know that you can adjust those. You can test, make a test call and make sure everything's set up correctly so that it works and sounds good. So there's that. One thing I do want to show you now that I just looked at that, something I forgot to show you, is, let's see, I'm going to go to the school closure support team, and let's say here somebody asked a great question about Teams PD, and I want to see the answer to it. One thing you can do for questions that you're interested in or information that you're interested in that you want to save and come back to is you can bookmark it. So in that ... menu, you can save the message. So I'm going to save that message. You can see I got a little pop-up here, but I click on my icon and I can go to my saved messages. Now, anything related to this one that I pinned, if we get more comments about that, I will still be able to see it in my bookmark section. So I can just follow some threads of conversations that are happening in the teams that I belong to. So just know you can do that through bookmarking. So another thing that you can do is you can react to any conversation. You can give it a thumbs up. That you can really like things. You can laugh, show surprises, those kinds of things. Those are fun. Just kind of like on Facebook, you can do the same thing. And this is a great way where you don't have to type a response, for example. Somebody can give you your answer and you can give me a thumbs up like, yay, I've got it. Okay, so that's something to know. One other great feature of conversations, I'm going to go into a team. I'm going to go into my class team and I'll show you this is what a class team looks like. A class team, this one was set up based on a course code in PowerSchool. It has fake students in it. None of the students are actually real. But it looks a little bit different than a regular team because it includes a class notebook, assignments, and grades. This is a OneNote notebook that's attached to a class team, and you can see here's my students starting with Abby Kadabi down to Prairie Dawn. These are all my fake students that are in here. By default, anyone you add to your class team, the students will automatically have a section that only they can see. So when Abby logs into this OneNote, she can see the collaboration space, which is literally a collaborative space where students have edit rights. They'll see a content library, which is content that the teacher uploads but is read-only to students, so they can copy it, but they can't edit it. And then Abby Kadabi has her own sections within this OneNote. This is how you provide handouts, you can provide assignments, you can have conversations kind of like on paper with students in this section. A class team is you can do assignments in a class notebook, or you can do assignments just in the team in general. You don't have to use the class notebook if you don't want to. But class assignments and quizzes are easy to create from here. And then you can have them auto-graded, or you can do a rubric grading. When, for example, Miranda Lambert goes to the grades tab, all she's going to see is her own grades. She won't see Harry Potter's grades. Now, one of the great things, one of the great tools you have, of course, is the announcements or this conversation area. You can really make a splash to get people's attention. And you can post an announcement or a conversation across any channel in any team you belong to. So this is why that's important. So imagine you are a science teacher, let's say at an elementary school, and you belong to every classroom teacher's team in that school. You want to share some science information in multiple classrooms at the same time without having to recreate it for every team. There's a really easy way to do it. So two things I'm going to show you. I'm going to show you how to create an announcement, and then I'm going to show you how to share it across multiple channels and multiple teams at the same time. So I'm going to start by clicking in the new conversation area of the team. That's right here. And then just below that is the format button. So I'm going to click format. Now I have some choices here. I can keep it as a conversation. So it looks just like any, this is a bad example, but so it just looks like any conversation in any of the teams you're in, or I can make an announcement. With an announcement, you get a bold header. This is an announcement. And you can change the color of that announcement. For example, we could choose this color, or you can choose an illustration. There's a few different ones to choose from. We'll go with this one right now, done. Or again, you could upload an image if you wanted to really personalize it. You can add a subtitle. Subtitle goes here. And then you can type your announcement stuff. And things goes here. You can include, you can attach things to this if you wish. You can include hyperlinks if you want. You just customize that announcement however you wish. So once you've made it all fancy and gotten all your content in there, you have some other things to decide on. If you want people to be able to reply to your announcements, don't do anything. Leave it how it is. If you want to make it so people can't really reply, it'd be you and any other owner of the team, you can choose this one. It says you and moderators can reply. But if you want everyone to reply, you just leave it how it is. But this is where the magic happens, this post in multiple channels business. So you can click on post in multiple channels, and then you can see there's a to field. It starts looking a little more like an email. So you come over to the right, and you click select channels. Now this is a list of every team I belong to. So if you belong to a lot of classroom teams because you've been included by all the teachers in your building, for example, you'll have one for each. You can, these are searchable, so you can figure out which team you're looking for. I'm going to use my favorite Use This Team for Messing With team. And I want to post this announcement to both channels there. I'm going to go to Social Studies. I'm going to post this in my class team. I'm going to have that on the counselors page, for example. So you can just choose the team, and then you choose which channels you want to include your announcement on. And then I'm going to click Update. So now I kind of just check to make sure everything's ready. If I want to highlight something, I can do that as well. You can just fancy it with abandon, and then you click the paper airplane, means you're sending it somewhere. So I'm going to click send. Now it showed up on the general channel, which is where I that's where I originally clicked on the announcement conversation box at the bottom. And then it also showed up here in the counselor tab. And then I put it in Use This Team for Messing With, and I did it in every channel there. So I created it once and I shared it in multiple places. So that's a good thing to know.
Oh, okay. Well, so you can use that @ symbol if you want to respond to someone directly, and so that they'll get a notice that you've responded. So sometimes, like for instance, especially in this chat, when you guys ask questions, but then 2 or 3 more questions come in, and I want to respond to one way up the list. For instance, I added Kim Stewart, and then you can see her name shows up in sort of blue. And then she probably, I assume, got a little notification that Tim Lewis mentioned you in the chat. So that way, and you can even add a team or a channel. So if you want to let everyone know in a channel or a team.
Yeah, and that's called a mention. So when you click the symbol and type somebody's name,
I'm going to keep saying @ Yes, I'm going to add them a lot. So
go ahead and add them.
Mention is good too.
Yeah. Microsoft calls that a mention. So when you click, press the @ symbol and type somebody's name, that's a mention. And it will show up as it'll add a number to the little red bubble at the for the team's notification. It will also show up in their activity feed. And depending on how they've set up their notifications, they might get that purple banner in the bottom right of their screen, or they might get an email. Again, everybody gets to customize their notifications, so it'll show up differently. And I'm going to mention I'll show you how to type that in. So I do the @ symbol, and then it'll start looking for people right away. So I'm going to actually, let me do Tim. You can see now all the Tims in the district show up. It'll be the one you most frequently click on is going to be the one on there. Clearly, Tim is top of the list, Tim Lewis. Okay, so then his name shows up in purple. See this? So when I type a chat, it shows up blue. Everybody else is white. That's how I tell the difference between what I've input and somebody else has. So then I'm going to hover over that, and Tim liked that little hello. Clearly he saw it. Okay, so let's move on to meetings. One thing I want to point out is these online meetings are new for most of our students. And so just like we would in a classroom, we need to set expectations for behavior in a classroom meeting. And every teacher can handle that however works best for them. But do know that we have an acceptable use policy that you could share with students. And one of those items includes online meetings. I'm going to pull that over right now so you can see it. So on the district homepage, I went to the digital tools page, and if you scroll down a little bit, here is the student technology acceptable use policy. We'll get that loaded. And one thing we added a week or 2 ago is number 11. I'm responsible for following school and classroom rules when I'm in an online classroom. So this is something important to share with students and families. We took the old one that was like thousands of words on a page and made it a little simpler earlier this year. So I do recommend making sure families are aware of this. This one about an online classroom means you know, students are going to make sure a teacher is there in an online meeting, that they're not going to be in an online meeting without one. That's something that's been happening. So just know that that's on the digital tools page of the district website. And let me move that over. Something else to take note of is this, the SpokaneSchools.org/learning-at-home. I want to make sure I point this out before I forget. There's a lot of information here, but in the technology tools section, we're adding videos, video how-tos, and other quick guides for students and families so that they know how to navigate in Teams, for example. We've added a lot to how to do things in Teams for students, how to connect to your home Wi-Fi, how to even log in, some email best practices. We're adding quite a few more to this section actually today. We're going to be adding content here a lot, so make sure you're checking out the technology tools section from Learning at Home. Okay, so let's talk about meetings. There's two different ways to host a meeting. I am going to talk about the most secure way to do it first. I know this is, I think, Mullen Road. This is how they are hosting most of their class meetings for student security. So let me pop back over here. Oops, wrong one. So I am having one of these Meet Now meetings in a channel is the most secure way you can have a meeting. There is not a join link. You can get a link to the channel, but this is the most secure way to have a meeting in Teams because there is no join link. You just have to be in the channel and you click on it when the meeting opens. And then when the meeting ends, there is no join link for students to continue on without you. So that is the #1 most secure way to have to host a meeting. And again, you can further make that meeting more secure by going to your people button and making people an attendee. That means they can only mute and unmute themselves and they cannot record the meeting. Okay, so that is the most secure meeting, is a Meet Now in a channel. Let me show you how to get a link to a channel. It's pretty easy to do. So I just go to the channel that I'm interested in, that I want to link to. I click that ... and I can get a link to that channel. So then I copy the link, right? So something good to know is then you can pop a link to that channel in Clever if you're a Clever user. Is the right one? Yeah, okay. So now I'm on my teacher page that is shared with my students. I can click Add Link, paste that channel. I'm going to say Distance Learning Channel. And you can pick whatever icon, or you can upload the icon if you wish. I'll just pick a random one and click Add. So now here, if I click on it again, I click Cancel, I can use the web app instead. So then it's really in Office 365 that I'm going into it. And it'll go there. So here's Teams via web browser in Office 365, and it takes me right to that channel, and then the Meet Now, I could join there. Let's say all of the students are an attendee at one time. That's fine. They're listening. They can unmute themselves and participate in the meeting. But if they want to screen share, I would have to, again, go back in and make Tim a presenter. It's just a way to manage students, student activity when they're in a team meeting. So I'll make you a presenter again, Tim, so you don't feel left out. There you go. So that is the most secure way to have a meeting. Another way to create a meeting is creating a calendar item. So I'm over here in my left tab. I clicked on Calendar. I'm going to set a meeting for tomorrow. So I just clicked on the calendar when I want to have the meeting. I'm going to call this one a sample. And here's the trick to this. I'm going to add myself as an attendee. That's the only person I'm going to invite because I'm going to use a share link. So I'm doing a sample. You make sure your day and time is right. You can add attachments here. You can provide an agenda for the meeting if you wish, however you want to set up your meeting. And then I'm going to click send. So I have this set for tomorrow at 8:30. All right, so here that sample meeting showed up on my calendar. So I'm going to, here's where kind of the trick is you open it up again, and you can see you now have a join link. But before we talk about the join link, I want you to take note of the meeting options. This is where you can make everyone an attendee when they enter, by default, when they enter the meeting. So a web browser will pop open, and you can see you have some settings here. By default, everyone can bypass the lobby, but if you're going to share that link with someone outside our organization, I suggest you mark this as people in my organization. So only students and staff in Spokane Public Schools can bypass the lobby. Anybody from outside our organization, you'll see that they are waiting to get into the meeting, and you can admit them one by one after you've identified who they really are. Something else, this is where you can make everyone an attendee. So by default, everyone is a presenter, but by clicking that button, you can say, I'm the only presenter. Then I can choose when to make people presenters. Everyone else is an attendee. And then you would click save. So now here I am in my meeting notice. Again, it's on my calendar right here. I can click to open. Now you can copy and paste this join link anywhere you wish, or you can right click, copy the link, and you could put it in Clever if you wanted. However, there is some security risks with that because that can be shared out, and anyone who has access to that join link can join the meeting, which is why it's important to make sure you're using your lobby and managing the people in your meeting. So let me go back to our meeting here. Something to note, and this was the new learning part for me, is I can click end meeting, and that does kick everybody out. However, if students have the join link, they can go back into that meeting without you. So again, the most secure way you can have a meeting is using Meet Now in a channel. So end meeting does not disable that link. That's one of the things I'm waiting to hear back from Microsoft on, is how to disable those links, or set it so that there's a lobby for every meeting that you can turn on, even for students, so they can't enter it without you. One way to have a Meet Now meeting is to navigate to a channel. Having a Meet Now in a channel of a team only allows the members of that team to attend the meeting. So you navigate to your channel. In this example, I'm going to use my Period 1 channel. And down at the bottom of the screen is a Meet Now button. I click Meet Now. I make sure I have all of my camera settings set the way I want, and then I click Meet Now. And from here, anyone who is a member of your team can attend this meeting. In this example, Harry Potter and Miranda Lambert is a member of this team, and they can attend the meeting. They will see a pop-up in the channel that says Join Now. In the channel, you can see that test meeting popped up in the channel. Again, only people who are members of the team can join that meeting. There is no join link for this meeting that can be shared. Another thing you can do to make your meetings even more secure is to click the People button to show all the participants in the meeting. As students are entering the meeting, I suggest making each one of them an attendee. Click Change. Again, I did that by clicking the ... menu next to each person's name and clicking Make an Attendee. click change. This way, students can only mute and unmute themselves. Also, they cannot record the meeting, and which is important because we don't want students to be able to um, record the meeting for security reasons. Another thing to note is that students cannot remove anyone else from the meeting. The only options they have is to pin someone in the meeting, which means their icon stays in front, or they can mute and unmute themselves. They can still set a custom background if they choose, but limiting the options that students have in a meeting makes it more secure. In the People view, you'll also know that there's an Invite Someone box. Students still have access to this, but again, only people who are a member of the team can access a Meet Now in a channel. You should also make sure that all students have left the meeting before you leave it. If you leave the meeting before anyone else, students can carry on in the meeting. You can end the meeting for all by clicking your dot 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 menu in your meeting toolbar pop-up and click End Meeting. That forces out all users. Click End and the meeting is over.